Okay, now we are live. What's up, Randomly Ronnie Jr. along with Russell Ray Silva. How's it going, man? Can we talk about some talk shows? You know, it's like my favorite topic to talk
You know,
about.
I've always wanted to be a talk show. Sorry, I
Oh,
got to readjust myself like a talk show host. I've always wanted to be a talk show host, and I've always wanted to be a game show host, which we know I've accomplished that. So now it's time to accomplish this. So let's go ahead and talk about it.
yeah. I mean, I hope that it's not redundant. I just anyone who watches my channel, which oh, by the way, can I tell you an accomplishment?
Tell me.
The other second, 5 minutes ago, I was telling Russell how I was a little frustrated or tired or whatever it may be. And then I'm realizing I have an accomplishment, which may be why I am a little exhausted. So obviously, you know that I've started radio 100 years ago, and I always mention that. But in terms of creating a platform, a YouTube, a podcast, you know, all the things you need to do, which is a lot of work on the independent side. Um, as your set is moving currently.
I try to be so subtle about that, and I was like,
nope, we call it out over here. But so this is an accomplishment, and this is a good thing. This is a good lesson because we're going to talk about talk shows. We're going to talk about persistence. We're going to talk about like the industry, but like how to push forward when you get in a rut. So again, I was having a little bit of a rut, not a big deal. But then I'm like, you have to assess and define what it is that maybe takes you to those places. So I just realized, Russell, and maybe this ain't an accomplishment in your mind, but on my youtube.com/randomlyRonnie Jr. And shout out to yours as well, youtube.com/at Russell X Raymond. I have 700 video uploads on the channel that I started. Yeah. So why would I be frustrated at all? But do you think we get to a point, and we'll get to Kelly and Mark in a second too. Do you think we get to a point where it happens like that? There's that level of like, I can feel more peace in my life, but then maybe I'm not as productive. But then when we're productive, it takes you to a place that you almost right at the brink of wanting to give up. I know it's not a
I've
good.
been there, but I feel like like myself personally, when I start accomplish or like just banging things out, accomplishing things, when there's opportunity on the table, I excel no matter how hard it gets. I will pull a 19-hour day, get 4 hours of sleep and 5 hours of sleep, do it all over again. But I understand what you're saying because the industry itself are peaks and valleys. And so you are going to have your ups and you are going to have your lows. And sometimes those lows go very, very, very low. And sometimes those peaks are extraordinarily high. It's just the nature of the game. Jennifer Lopez has always said that this industry is not for the faint-hearted. And you have to push through the rough times in order to get to the top. And that's just where we're at this moment.
And we will talk about like the success. Like I said, I think Kelly Ripa is a damn good talk show host. I know she makes it look natural and easy. But I just, I didn't know. I don't know the answers, honestly. But I feel like, well, if it's my channel, I do what I want. That's number one. But like also, it's that concept of why shouldn't we let the world know that like, this is kind of, making me a little bit exhausted, but it is a passion of mine. Like, I feel like too many times we are covered behind the notion of like, let's just be perfect with whatever we do. And so maybe it's a little bit of a new, refreshing vibe of mine. When I was your age, a little bit younger, maybe I was a little bit more go, go, go. Now I want to be go, 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 go. But I feel like it's good to be vulnerable. Do you think that's cheesy, Russell? Do you think that's like not the way is that not the way to become the next Kelly and Mark? Like, am I not doing it right, you think?
I think just in general, you need to have yourself in the position to have that opportunity given to you. It doesn't necessarily, you don't need to be the most clean-cut individual. You don't need to be the most popular individual. If you have those opportunities where you're strategically aligning yourself, and once it happens, it'll all click. And like I've always been told since I was a kid, the harder and harder life becomes, the closer and closer you are to a breakthrough. And so I always cling to that, as in no matter how hard life gets, the harder it gets, just the closer you are to a breakthrough.
That's like on Devil Wears Prada, the movie with what's his name, Stanley Tucci and
Stanley Tucci,
and of course the wonderful Meryl Streep. There was the time where he says, "Oh, so tell me when your life is completely up in flames. That means you deserve a raise." So it's just such a truth to the matter of like putting in the work, but then like, you know, how do you keep balance? So that's something that I'm kind of always learning. And then when we decided what episode to do here, because Russell and I, we do like housewives recaps, and he does, you know, some of the hard news stuff as well. But it was like, oh, what can we talk about? And I just honestly pitched like, let's talk about Kelly and Mark, because I just have such an urge to always want to be knowing more about this craft. You know what I mean? If you as a child grew up wanting to be a talk show host, you should always be pushing for that, I think, right? That should always be top of mind. You should always be addressing it. You should be assessing what you're doing, you know, with your vision, etc. Were you a big fan of Kelly to begin with? And what was your overall thoughts of Mark Consuelos? Because he recently made a couple comments, positive comments too. And I feel like, honestly, this show, as it's wrapped up, you know, the initial changeover from Ryan, I feel like it's only going to get bigger and better.
Here's the thing. I had questioned before Ryan even got on the show. I questioned why Mark Consuelos wasn't a part of this to start with. And my significant other and myself were had almost opposite perspectives. I said, I think Mark Consuelos would be perfect for this. And he said, no, I don't think he's the right fit, just because they live together. Now they're going to be working together. It might be a little bit too much of a good thing. And in my eyes, I said, when things are good and things are going good, why not keep getting while the getting is good? And in his mind, it didn't make any sense. In my mind, it made perfect sense. So when Ryan announced that he was leaving and they announced that Mark Consuelos was stepping into the space, I thought, beautiful opportunity. This is going to go for ages. And Kelly has finally found her perfect fit of a co-host. Not to say that Ryan wasn't that individual, but there's just something said to have been married in Hollywood and have such longevity and such a good relationship. And now you're going to be able to work together, and it's going to shine and it's going to show on an international or on a national spectrum. Therefore, if you're doing well in life and things are going good, be the example that everyone wants to see. And not only that, they're an interracial couple that has really kind of elevated each other, from being a talk show host and a soap star to just really bridging the opportunity together to lead their own show.
I love a lot of those points. And another thing is she's assertive. So I've always enjoyed that about her. And then in terms of what you're talking about, like, why would this be the perfect time for this to happen? You know, they've worked together before. So you at least, I mean, that was when they were sort of coming up, but still, if you're able to maintain a relationship and work together, it shows that it did happen at least once. It is a little bit different now. And yes, there could have been some trepidation, but it is just the right timing. The kids, they have the 3 kids. They're all sort of, you know, growing up and starting their own lives respectively. So this was the right time. So what he made mention of recently was like, oh, you know, even some of the live on-air mistakes, you know, are part of the charm of the show, which also the producer Gilman, co-signed too. And it's something you and I talk about because, you know, we'll do our YouTube channel, you know, our different shows, and some of them are pre-recorded, but a lot of them are live. And, you know, I've done live radio, and it's the same thing. You really, it brings out a certain electricity. So I like the fact that Mark Consuelos, who's at the top of his game on this big TV show that I think is only going to rate better and better as the years go by with them as a couple. I love maybe his vulnerability to be able to say, you know what, I make a lot of mistakes. And he's probably saying it because, you know, Kelly probably doesn't make many mistakes because she's been doing this for so long. And it's sort of a daunting experience for him to come in, you know. You made a couple like mentions of things that why this could kind of work or why it is working. But I thought was interesting too is, you know, it seems like sometimes people may have a problem with the wife excelling at a certain level. You know what I mean? Her really being a boss. And I just really feel a warmth about the way he respects her as such. She is the boss. You know, it's not emasculating him in any way, which it should have never, but a lot of men seem to take it that way. And I really feel like he's doing exactly what he should be doing in the situation. His first season in, saying it's fun, I make errors, but like it's generally a really good experience. It is sad that a lot of men can't necessarily be in that other role where their wife, you know, their significant other is prodded up so much, and they feel their little bits of insecurity. So I commend him for not really having that. You know what I mean?
You have to remember too, we're still transitioning into this generation of people not having an issue with their significant other being more successful than they are. But from the generation of even part of your generation, but the generation of Mark Consuelos and Kelly Ripa, is that your man is the breadwinner and the bring home's the money, and the wife is the one who's the caretaker and takes care of the house. And so we're really at this, like he said, he makes mistakes and he doesn't mind being vulnerable and mind, supporting his wife in her career where she's at. And that's great, because that's what we want to see in these older generations. And by older, I mean like anything above a millennial or Gen X, just because it was such a different time. It was pre-internet. And the one thing about millennials is that we have a good crossover between internet and without internet in our life. And so we understand both sides of it. But from a generation from where Mark Consuelos was at, there was no internet. It was really all about perspective, and there wasn't these outside influences that can really kind of call you out for doing things that you might not necessarily see, because we tend to surround ourselves with people who are just like us. So if we surround ourselves with couples who are predominantly, one is a breadwinner and the other one is not, and they happen to be male female, and the male's the one who's bringing more of an income, and it's kind of this like macho mindset, then we don't grow. But now in the day and age of internet, we do grow, because we're able to see these things, and we're able to see successful women who are lawyers and their husbands are, shipping and receiving with union jobs. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's what works for them. And I think we're at this fine place in life where no matter what you do, as long as it works for you, that's all that really matters, no matter who's making more, whether your wife is making more, your husband is making more. And there's not really a dominant and sub character, because as we learn, as we get older, everything is about teamwork, and you can't make something happen without someone else in your life. Even if you are a single individual, you reach out to your siblings, you reach out to your best friends, you reach out to your family. Nothing is technically done alone. You kind of, there's a support system always in place. And so I'm glad to see Mark Consuelos supporting Kelly Ripa and the places she's at, and him stepping into the shoes of Ryan Seacrest and really fulfilling that space, and just being one with the show and taking his wife's lead, and how she's been doing this for, oh my gosh, Kelly Ripa's been doing this since I was a kid, when she was on with Regis.
She was on with Regis, yeah, prior. And the thing is, like, I made the mention a second ago about like, oh, how wonderful it is that he supported her and she's, sort of the lead on the show. But that should be a very common thing. But it kind of is frustrating that it has to be spoken about. But nonetheless, he is doing that. He's a great contribution to the show. Not that I want to have a disagreement about this, but I actually think Ryan Seacrest really wasn't the right person for that show. So to me, this is a big come up experience for the life of Live with Kelly and whoever would the person be, which is Mark in this case. I don't think Ryan actually nailed what he needed to do in the show. I feel like it's a very big, like that first block of 20 minutes, it's a very personality driven show, and Ryan just seemed a little guarded. So within that is another reason I feel like Mark is a little better. Mark is also very handsome. So, that's always worthy of saying.
Ryan is very handsome.
Okay,
and this is coming from personal experience. I have spoken to Ryan in person, and I was like, wow, you're stunning. Like, just a stunning individual. And he holds himself a certain type of way that's very attractive as an individual. You're just like, wow, that's even like, not even sexually, like just attractive in general. I would want to be around this person. But again, you have to also remember that Ryan came from teleprompter. Well, he came from American Idol, and American Idol is really what set his career off. But even American Idol is very teleprompter. E-News was very teleprompter. And then you get to these other spaces where you start to have free range. And when you come from a structured environment, it would be like going from hard news behind the desk to going on the red carpet and interviewing celebrities and being on the whim. It's just a very different element. And sometimes, it works, and sometimes it's just this was a great run, but I'm not really filling the space. Not to say that that's what Ryan wanted or what he stated, but it could be that position where it's like, I have free range, but I like structure, and structure is just kind of my thing. And maybe I'll go into be on the Wheel of Fortune, or, maybe I'll take that position instead. And he actually is one of the front runners for Wheel of Fortune along with Sherry Shepherd.
When I give the critique, it's not about Sherry Shepherd. Oh, wow. She already won the talk show lottery, and now she's going to do that too. I don't know. When we give the critique, though, it's not about giving a critique to be negative towards like a Ryan Seacrest. It's just more about like what we're talking about, especially as we're both pursuing a lot of these endeavors as well. I've worked in radio. You had a show on Peacock streaming. Like we're also speaking from that place. So when I say Ryan, I'm more so saying I don't know that was the right casted position for what his skill set was willing to go. You know what I mean? Like he might have wanted to be more protective, which he has every right to do. The new breed of the new batch of whoever's the next Ryan Seacrest, those people are a little bit, because they're younger, they're a little bit more exposed with being exposed. You know what I mean? They're a little bit more like TikTok savvy, so they're giving so much of their lives. Ryan comes from a little bit like the older generation where, you still want to be very private, which I could totally understand. I was just simply saying, I don't think he was properly casted in the position. But listen, if Kelly liked him, working with him, then it's great. I know personally, I kind of wasn't a big fan of Live with Kelly and Ryan. And I love the show so much. I love the format so much. I'm such a talk show fan. So this is why I get giddy with Mark Consuelos. We have a couple more thoughts about Mark Consuelos, but Russell, if we may, I think we have to take a small break. So stay tuned, and we will talk more about Kelly and Mark in 1 second.
Well, hello there. Thank you for watching and supporting the show with my good friend, RandomlyRJ Jr. Who the hell am I? Great question. My name is Mark Rodriguez with Mastermind Media, and I wanted to take just a moment of your time to let you know about all the other incredible things this guy, RandomlyRJ Jr. has going on. But first, before we get into that, please comment, like, and subscribe. That is how he grows here on these channels. But one channel you probably don't know about is patreon.com/RandomlyRJ Jr., where he's got a bunch more exclusive content. So please check that out. But speaking of YouTube, let's go back to YouTube for a second. He's got this hashtag randomly with Ronnie Jr. and it shows all of his stuff in his days in radio from back in the day, all the way up to present day, and his new interviews, podcasts, just videos across the board. So please check that out, because when you think about content creators, there's millions of content creators, but there's only one, Randomly Ronnie Jr. Let's get back into the show.
Why, thank you, Mark. I agree with whatever Mark says. Part of the reason we did that, Russell, was because I really have a hard time sometimes saying, would you comment? Would you like? Would you subscribe? Can you go here? Can you go there? Like sometimes I really am of the old school where I want the work to be the work. And what is the term they used to use back in the day? Let the work speak for itself, which is so funny because that's not how you pursue anything anymore. Now it's let you speak for the work, really. And the work is kind of not sometimes a big deal. It's how you advertise it and market it. So that was just a fun way to kind of say, go support my Patreon, damn it. So I wanted to get your last thoughts on Kelly and Mark real quick, though, because we both love the art form of talk show. I wanted to give credibility, though, to somebody else who I think is amazing. Now, a lot of times people get really more modern with their viewpoints. Now it's like if you're not like a TikTok superstar, you're not necessarily in a lot of people's eyes, like, have this great talent. But I still feel like conveying live television or, a teleprompter or whatever is still such a skill set. So while we jump away from Kelly and Mark for just a second, I wanted to say, could you believe, and he's an idol of mine, even though a lot of people don't think he's that compelling, I think there's an art form to his subdued delivery. Carson Daly is 50 years old. Who would have thought the day that Carson Daly was 50 years old? And what's crazy about it is I think you mentioned, your childhood. It's like I grew up where Carson Daly was, I was a teenager. He was like TRL. So he spoke so much to a certain audience.
Yeah.
And I just, well, I'll let you. what is your thoughts with Carson Daly? Does he do anything for you? Is he a little bit more subdued? Is he somebody that you did take an inspiration from as well?
You know, Carson Daly was more of my brother and sister. Like, where there's just the perfect gap between us to where he resonated more with them versus how much he resonated with me. Now, I will say, I always wanted to follow in the footsteps of Spring Break when Carson Daly used to host Spring Break, because that has always been one of my ultimate dreams, is to host Spring Break, which is why you can always find me in the gym, because if I'm hosting Spring Break, I don't want a shirt on. But I think Carson Daly is very talented at what he does. He had to kind of find his place he was almost in the celebrity spotlight for a minute when he was engaged to Tara Reid. And that was kind of this not messy moment, but it was just a moment of, am I a celebrity now, or am I a television personality? And that's kind of the beginning when we saw television personalities and celebrities kind of intermingling with each other and actually becoming a thing and becoming couples. And so I think he had to find his space, and because Carson Daly is worth every penny you're going to pay for him. He's a very talented individual. I think he does great on The Voice, and I think he does great on Good Morning America. Today's show. Sorry. I was looking at a picture of Good Morning America behind, because Shane's friend works for them. But I think he does great at what he's great at what he does. Inspirational wise to me, I don't know if he fits my individual taste. I think he's very talented, and I think he was just at a gap where I was missing it, and it was kind of just going right over my head. But I do remember watching him on TRL and thinking to myself, wow, this guy's very, very talented. I also remember watching TRL and thinking I would really like to see more than 30 seconds of the top song of the week. So going back to your point of stating, did he do anything for me? I think he did. I think in indirect way, he did inspire me, and I think he's great at what he does. But I also didn't see him as like a metrosexual individual, and that's kind of what I clung to. And when it came to Ryan was more of my era. So I was watching him in American Idol thinking, wow, he's kind of metro. You know, he has the bleached tips, and he's on this competition show, and it's kind of working for me in the sense of like I'm relating more to him than I did with Carson Daly. However, I wanted to be on the shows that Carson Daly was on. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Well, the reason I always talk so highly of Carson Daly is because he is a huge role model of mine. And I also think that a lot of people, and I think they think this of Kelly too, sometimes when you do this so naturally and so good, it seems as if you just kind of like woke up and then just like, plopped on set and got busy with the show. And I think there's such a skill to that delivery. Now, Carson Daly doesn't have a similar delivery as Kelly Ripa by any means. They're very different. But I'm saying sometimes I feel like people think that it has to be such an over-the-top delivery for it to work. And I think there's certainly a skill set to looking so darn comfortable. Carson Daly also comes from the world of radio. His mother worked in radio in Palm Springs. So it probably is a really cool thing to have the dreams that he's had and the accomplishments that he's had and it get this big. Okay. So when I look at the whole format of Kelly, when she was with Regis and then Regis with Kathy Lee, the whole format to me is so exciting. I think as you get older, I'm 42 years old now, you have to really start thinking of what opportunities you could continue to do. And then what opportunities you're going to have to sort of age into. So the format has always seemed like, you're a lot younger than me, but the format for me was always like, okay, I kind of am done with certain things, not that I can't try anything, but I remember saying, especially as I was developing my YouTube channel, I remember saying, oh, my goal with this, amongst many different goals, is I would like to formulate a show that has that Monday through Friday banter about life, a little bit more aged appropriate. And Kelly, at the time she was doing it with Ryan Seacrest, but the format just really excited me. So that was a motivating force for me to do my channel, which, you love, everybody, I assume, loves, youtube.com/randomlyRJ Jr. My question to you is, if you were to team up yourself with a female co-host in the way that Kelly teamed up with Mark. Do you have anyone that you really like out there? They don't have to be super famous. Who would you team yourself up with? And would you get an exhilarating thrill about doing a show like that Monday through Friday, talking about your personal life a little bit, interviewing celebrities?
100%.
It would be
100%.
good, right? Yeah.
100%, because I like a little bit of structure. So I like a Monday through Friday anything. Yes. Now, speaking of a female co-host, I'm trying to think of anybody that actually comes top of mind to myself. I do like Lisa. She started on Vine, doing her 6-second vines, and she kind of propelled herself into stardom. And now she has she co-hosts along with Shakira and Nick Jonas for that TV show. My gosh, it's slipping my mind right now because it's been such a whirlwind of a week. But I would love to co-host with her because I think she's a fun individual, and I think she knew how to take being social media star into actually becoming a natural star in Hollywood and bridging that gap. But initially, who I think I vibe with 100% would be my senior partner from college, Tiffany Hayward. Her and I had such a good banter between the both of us. She's gorgeous, long golden hair, curly, like it's just beautiful. And we just understood each other. We could finish each other's sentences and it just worked. So I think if there would be anyone who I could do a Monday through Friday with, it would be Tiffany. Because I think she's intelligent. She has a master's. I love working with people who are smarter than me because it elevates me, or have more experience than me because it elevates me. I don't want to be the smartest one in the room. I want to be the one who's learning from the smartest ones in the room. That's always been my forte.
Are you saying I'm the smartest in the room and I'm teaching you a thing or two? Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. No. I love the answers that you gave, and there's just so many ways to go about it because that's what I mean. Like the format of these shows is fantastic. I always, in my head, I would be like, listen, I love the Kelly and Mark show, but if another network said randomly, let's do something, then Kelly and Mark would be my biggest nemesis, just because I love the format so much, and I'm set to win. Okay. Yeah. Before I get to who I would want to co-host with, I got to tell you, I think honestly, you would do great with tons of people. In fact, it could be a male co-host. You know, it could be a more modern thing also. But who I think you would be really good with, and it's also because she's so fantastic. When Russell and I first worked on a project together, it was through Maria Menounos's AfterBuzz TV, and this was a whole bunch of years ago. And I feel like Maria and you together would be quite an experience. Now, we know that her namesake is, very, very large, and, you're still, coming up in the ranks and whatnot. I think that would be a huge, chemistry test, and you guys would do very well together.
Do you know, I actually had the opportunity, I was very, very close. I had the opportunity of co-hosting with her, and I was reached out to by an executive producer that was bringing her onto this project. I won't say what project it is because I don't want to mention anything else about it. But I was spoken to because I knew this individual. They really liked me. They liked my work. I was still very, very, very new to the game, but they were willing to take a chance on me. Now, when they pushed me higher up to the next ranks, they were concerned that I didn't have a large enough following or fan base to keep the interaction of the viewers for that specific show. And so they moved on with someone else and used someone else. But I was very, very, very close. It's funny you would say that. I was very, very close with working with her because the first line of executive producers really liked me. Just the second line was just kind of concerned that I might not be able to pull in the audience that they wanted.
No, you should do it. I think if any network wanted to go up against Kelly and Mark, and again, I'm respectfully saying that because I think Kelly and Mark are dynamic. Like, I'm obsessed with the show. I know a lot of people don't love TV like that anymore, but I do. I just like them together. But I really do honestly feel that you, if a network came or a streaming platform or whatever, you and Maria would be really, really good. Now,
do you know who I think I would also do well with?
Can I name somebody first too?
Okay, go ahead.
I think you would do good. And see, this is kind of going against everything you just said, because you said that like when you got pushed to the higher level, it becomes like a social media numbers thing, which, you know, totally sucks, but we understand why. Although she might have good numbers. I think there's a girl also that we met through AfterBuzz. She went on Survivor. Her name's Lauren Ashley something or whatnot. You know who I'm talking about, right?
Mm-hmm.
You would do really well with her too. She has a certain bubbly energy that I feel like would kind of like keep both of you would kind of keep upping each other, and it'd be really fun to watch. I think on like a Monday through Thursday or a Monday through Friday, you know, banter meets interview series. I think she would be quite excellent as well.
This is the ultimate dream, right? I think I would get along like this with Jen. I think Jennifer Lopez and myself, if Jennifer Lopez ever wanted to step away and go into the television hosting world, I think her and I would do very well together, and I'll tell you why. She gets along very well with millennials, and she has a young spirit in mind. She's fun. She dances. I dance. I'm fun. We both kind of those people that would jump on a table and kind of just let loose a little bit. And so if she ever wanted to step into the television space, and she's aging so beautifully, like, oh my gosh, we look the same age. I think her and I would do great together. And I think it would be a power dynamic because we are both of Hispanic descent. So it would be that inspirational story of, oh my gosh, this is a English speaking Latino show that, you know, is like propelling into stardom, and we're doing wonderful. And we've already won 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 Emmys for best structured syndicated program. But I digress. If the opportunity ever presents itself, you best believe that I will be right there in line.
Well, let me tell you, you have to put it in the universe. And like, you know, when we come up with topics, like, again, we've done, you know, commentary on reality TV, et cetera, et cetera. And I was having a little bit of a mental, like, what do I want to do? What do I want to do? And it was a friend of mine who actually knows the digital space really, really well. He was one of the instrumental people, speaking of J-Lo in a way, he was one of the instrumental people who originally built out the YouTube channel for the competition, not the TV show, but the competition of World of Dance, which later did become an NBC show. Two different entities, but like kind of built together. Anyways, this friend of mine who knew how to really like build content of that level, when I was having a little bit of a, you know, what should I do? Or what's the right, you know, just what works for me? He said, do what you always talk about. And I was like, but what if it's not like, you know, what if that doesn't track? And so we try to do things that do track quite a bit. But he tells me, my friend, he tells me, you're always talking about talk shows. You're always talking about like the duality between what you want to do with the experience in radio and television that you have, but then how TikTok stars are kind of getting bigger opportunities, how you feel about that, how you want to start learning a little bit more, not learning, but engaging more in social media. But then it's like kind of taxing on my mentality or my energy. And he was like, just speak that authentically. So I really do thank you for being a co-host in this, because while other people may not think talking about a talk show is that big of a deal, it is like my favorite thing to talk about. So one of the people I think I would like to do a show with, similar to the format of Kelly and Mark, is Shar Giselle. I believe her last name is Giselle. Shar Says So was the Instagram handle for a long time. I don't know if it still is. She always, when she comes to New York, she's always going to go see The View. And I feel she's a Chicago girl originally, and you know, lives in LA. I just feel like there's just something that would really like work well together. And, you know, obviously, like you said, sometimes it has to be a celebrity or a social media star for it to get greenlit. But, you know, we're in a new era where you can greenlight your own stuff, you know, on your own like YouTube channel and stuff like that. So I look at Kelly and Mark as a little bit of a dream of a place that I want to go. You know what I mean? And I feel like I should never turn that down, just the way you said, damn it, I'm good enough to do a show with J-Lo. Now, it is kind of funny that you didn't say Linda Lopez, because she's the one that does broadcasting more so. And you just said, nope, sorry, Linda. we're going with Jenny. I mean, that is bold, but I give you credit for it.
I do love Linda, though. I think she worked for E for a while, and she's great at what she does. But I don't mind working next to two power women and being right there in the middle. Thank you, ma'am. I will be right there with Linda, and I'll be right there with Jennifer Lopez. And you know what? And Lupe is going to executive produce us because she's not above that either. So I am ready for the perfect storm to happen and be sponsored by Body Armor.
Whoa. It's all going down live. I do know
anything
that
can happen live.
I do know that you have a huge interest and intrigue with the empowerment of all people, but you know, the Latino community in general. So I think you're definitely on the right track. We're gonna do this one thing that we did. Speaking of the Latino community, we were doing, and you could go on both of our channels to get this content. We recently recapped Eva Longoria and Devon Franklin did the Flaming Hot for the Flaming Hot Cheetos story, Richard Montanez. And when we were doing the interview, not the interview, we were doing a recap, Russell and myself. We were saying, what would you do? Like, what would you ask? You know, the stars of the film, and also Richard himself. So going off that same vein, I guess I didn't need to explain all that. But going off that same vein, if you were to ask a question to Kelly Ripa and Mark Consuelos, what would it be? Do you have anything that is intriguing?
What is the secret to a longevity in marriage when it comes to Hollywood, and how do you find your place of stardom and balance in privacy home life without sacrificing one for the other?
That's good.
That's
real good. That's real good. Hire this guy. I'm going to be your manager. I'm going to take more than 15%.
I am good.
Can I tell you the last thing that I really, really love about this? Again, my big thing is that I love the format. Loved it even when it was Regis and Kathy Lee. Although I began to like Kathy Lee a little bit more when she did the show with Hoda, but that's neither here nor there. What I also think is fantastic about the two of them, and that you know, kind of an unheard thing to be a couple on a show together, is that there's nothing wrong with where we're at in society, but lots of divorce, you know. Even the TV shows that we watch are sometimes a little more, I don't know if would the word be aggressive, but you know, a little more toxic.
Do you want to know why divorce? Okay, go ahead.
Let me just finish the thought. The thought is, I feel like even that is something that you want. You have so much messy mess that's going on everywhere. So if I could turn on the TV and see Kelly and Mark giving something of their long-term relationship, kids growing up, empty nesters, or all the things that they go through, there's something really beautiful about that. Because again, I'm not knocking anyone who, you know, has a divorce or whatever, but it's not really seen very much. And for us to be able to watch that on a television show, I think is fantastic. Okay, back to you.
Do you want to know why I think our divorce rates are so high? So
ooh, that's a whole nother episode.
Here's my honest opinion on it. I'll tell you, first things first is this generation just doesn't want to put in the work. A lot of these individuals want the superficial fantasy that you see on Instagram, and they don't want to do the work that's behind it. They don't want to go through the month of the 6 periods of the 6 month period of like, oh, you're on my nerves and I do not want to talk to you right now. I just don't want to be in the same room with you. They don't want to go through that. They want everything to be sunshine and roses. So that's the first reason I feel like our divorce rates are so high. Our second reason I feel like divorce rates are so high is because prior to, you know, women empowerment and encouraging, you know, everyone to kind of live at their best life, it was kind of, you stayed on the same page and you stayed in the same chapter of your life for the entirety of your life. If I have this responsibility, I had kids with this individual, we need to stay married because that's the right thing to do. Now we're looking at it as, you know what, I had a great run with you. And we're seeing, you know, couples split amicably now and having actually a really good relationship. We're seeing this, you know what, I had a good 15 years with you. I'm just in a different place in my life and I want to explore and travel, and I want to travel the world. And every time I ask you, you don't want to do this. You want to be local and you want to build a life here. And that's okay too. So let us be happy for each other and go our different ways. And so I think it's more acceptable now to say, you know, this part of my life is closing and I'm opening this new part of my life. And like I said, we're seeing a lot more couples that are splitting amicably and co-parenting beautifully because everyone has this, or not everyone, but a lot of people have this respect for each other now of we're individuals. We grow. We're not the same person we are when we're 15. We're not the same person when we're 25. We're not the same person when we're 35. We're constantly evolving as individuals. And we're now starting to accept the fact that we're growing differently. And that's okay too. And you don't have to be this picture perfect society anymore. When it does happen, that's great, because that means that you found your person early on. And I think with Kelly and Mark Consuelos, they found each other early on, and therefore they've been able to have a blissful marriage and grow together and blossom together. And I think other people, unfortunately, don't find that right off the bat, because they're subject to finding someone in their immediate community. And sometimes someone in your same area code is not the person that you're meant to be with. You're meant to be with someone in Jersey, New York, Chicago. You know, you're meant to be with someone in that Spain, Hawaii. There's opportunity now to actually find the person that complements you the best.
I love those comments, and it is very inspiring that they are together. And it's also, you know, you made great points too as to why it doesn't work sometimes, you know, and there's not a knock if it, you know, if you do,
there's not a knock if it doesn't. Like there's no shame behind it anymore, because sometimes it just doesn't work.
Yeah. But the key thing is how you maintain that confidence. So basically, you know, if it happens to work for Kelly and Mark, that's great. And they're able to like carry it on and put it into their work. But if it happens to be a situation where you're, you know, having that stress and, you know, you've already put in the time and it is time to break up, it's probably better to break up than to, you know, life is very short. So you don't want to ever put yourself in a situation that isn't fulfilling you to the utmost. So there's a lot to think about here. This is why the format is really good, because it does open up these questions, these great talking points. And I think that Kelly and Mark, another thing they do really wonderfully is they have duality. Okay. So they're funny. They could be emotional. They could be flirty, which is my favorite skill set of theirs, but they have duality. And let me tell you who else has duality. Myself, Randomly Ronnie Jr., and Russell Ray Silva, who you think of as, you know, talk show host. You know, he's, you know, you've already done your show on Peacock streaming and it's ascension for you. But if you said you're watching right now and you're loving the show, Gelman's watching. Hi, Gelman. You know, and you're like, oh, well, we need some duality. Well, let me just tell you, Russell doesn't just give the good information. He also talks a little bit of SHIT in the right kind of way. This is from a reality TV recap. And this is duality because he just gave you all that goodness about the Latino community and J-Lo. But he also could serve it up like this. What else do we have? We have everyone getting ready for this big get-together. Well, that was the get-together. So that was like the fun side, or the, you know, nice.
Adriana's butt.
Oh, tell me about Adriana's butt. Yes, we saw Adriana's butt. Boom, there it is.
You know what? Here's the thing. Look, I'm so tired of everybody getting fake butts. Just stop. Just stop. I mean, I get it. If you're like this, I get it. I get it. You want a little hey, little whoa, you know. Come on.
Well, I plan on getting the hey and the whoa. Hello, doctor.
You need a little hey, little whoa.
Yeah. Because I'm like this. I need the hey and the whoa.
Look, I've worked. Let me just show you. I've worked very hard.
Oh, no, this one.
Hold on. I've worked very hard for what
Look at that dookie
here. Okay, thank you.
Not a live demonstration.
And it is possible. If I can do it, you can do it too.
What?
Such a mess. But here's the thing. That's what goes into being a great television host. You can be spontaneous. You can be you can just be authentic in the moment. And that's the thing. You can very much build the perfect asset if you work hard enough for it and you're willing to put in the time and the work and eat the carbs. People stray away from carbs, but let me tell you, carbs are your best friend. Carbs will always be your best friend, and they will work in your favor if you can make them work for you. It doesn't matter how you go about it, as long as you go about it. Oh gosh, I can't even tell you. Okay.
I hope that didn't embarrass you. I just thought it would be fun, because here's the thing.
Mortified.
You were mortified?
I feel like when you know people, when you go on a talk show as a guest and they bring up this old memory about you, like your first acting gig, And it's just like so horrifying to you as an individual. But as you learn and you grow, you know, just it's the comedy is there, and I don't mind being the butt of a joke. And that was literally a butt of a joke.
Pun intended. Yeah. I don't think I would be bringing up that clip if in our control room, if we were talking about like physics or something, but we're talking about fun on camera banter and some cool experiences. And I'm going to say one thing, and we could end the show here. I don't want to mince words either in terms of like, you know, I used to kind of wonder about like how much ambition you want to show. And I'll be honest, like, again, being very clear, I would love if a Kelly or Mark or the production team or Gilman saw, you know, the work that you and I are doing and wanted to work with one of us or both of us on some level. Like, I think I'm at that stage, and, you know, I'm over 40, just barely, which is hard to tell because I look so damn beautiful. But nonetheless, I am over 40. And I feel like when you get over 40, there's like this weird huge sense of confidence, but also such a huge sense of like reality, you know, in terms of like, you know, you're very humble, you're humbled, but you're also the things that you want, you have to speak it out to the universe. So I really do think like, oh my gosh, yeah, Kelly, if Mark wants to go on and get back into the acting and you're looking for somebody, I feel like I could be the next superstar on that show. Why shouldn't I say that? You know what I mean? And I think that's what has always attracted me to Kelly. Now, I don't know Mark, his stuff as much, although he's so good looking, so good to look at. But with Kelly, it was always like she just was very I mean, it's TV, so we don't really know everything, but she always seemed authentic to her word. And I feel like over my creative years, because I started radio in 2002, it was a long time ago, I started my career so bashful, so second guessing, so worried. And I really, you know, if you're looking at this episode, you're like, why are they gassing up Kelly so much or Mark? It's because it takes a long time, Russell. I don't know where you're at with in your journey, but it takes a long time to be able to look at that mirror and say, I freaking love everything that I'm doing, everything that I'm pursuing, with room for improvement too. That sentence right there took years. And now that I'm there, I feel like I should never downplay it, right?
No, I absolutely. I think if you're not looking at yourself and you're not saying that, then you're clearly not on the right path, and you need to find something. And we grant you, everyone has that 9 to 5 that they just, as soon as they can step out of it, they will. And that's okay too, because you still need to provide for yourself. But you definitely should be able to get to that point to look at yourself in the mirror and think like, damn, I'm so good looking. And I got, you know, I got everything going for me. I'm young, I'm fun. People love me. I give out good energy, and everyone wants a piece of this. Right? Everyone wants me at their party. You should be able to say that. Unless you're, you know, an introvert, then you might want to say like, people love me, but I love my distance. And that's okay too. But look in that mirror and tell everybody who you are, because that's exactly what you're giving the world, is how you see yourself. If you don't see yourself as good, fun, outgoing, and on the right journey, you are not going to be on that space.
1000%. And again, I sometimes I'm like, oh, you know, what episode are we going to cover? You know, always doing the reality TV stuff does do really well in terms of numbers. And then I'm like, oh, you know, is anyone going to be interested in watching us talk about, you know, a talk show? But you really, like I said, when my friend gave me that advice, is like, you know, go to your show, youtube.com/randomlyRonnie Jr. and patreon.com/randomlyRonnie Jr. Okay, Kelly, make it rain. Go to your platform and do the things that are so important to you. And so, you know, anyone who knows me knows that I've been caring about this type of stuff for a long time. As a kid, I wanted to be on the radio. I've succeeded in that, and it continue to succeed. So the ascension is, you know, happening. But you know, it's okay to want it all. Any last words for you in your creative process? Because I know this was about Mark and Kelly, but it was also about navigating the business. Do you have anything else you want to share? Words of advice, wisdom?
I think one thing that I've always said is that if you don't feel it internally, then you're not going to get anywhere to where you need to be. Then you're faking it. And I'm not a fan of fake it until you make it. I think if you fake it until you make it, but you feel it inside, that's one thing, because you're just trying to put yourself in the position to make it. But if you're faking it for the sense of faking it and you have no idea where you want to go, then you need to stop and look at yourself and really figure out where you want to go in life. Because if you don't feel it internally, you're never going to manifest what you're trying to portray. So always feel it on the inside. If it doesn't feel right in the gut, don't go for it. Take a step back and see what's wrong. fix it, address it, move forward.
I have one more thing. I know we're supposed to be done, and we're going to be done right now, but this is so important in the world of talk show and production. Russell did a show on Peacock streaming. It was called Create the Escape. It was like a escape room, and it had this family dynamic, a really cool show. Go watch it on Peacock streaming to this day. He's a design expert on the show and a host. Russell, tell me a little bit about what you had learned with that experience in the vein of, I don't know if you have any stats on you, but in the vein of like, there's not necessarily always an abundance of Latino television actors or presenters, et cetera, et cetera. Did you learn a little bit of that while you were entering the world of television hosting in that experience?
At the time I landed Create the Escape, there was actually a report released from both USC and UCLA. They do, I think it's an annual report. It might be every 2 years, but I'm almost positive it's an annual report of the percentages of culturally inclusive individuals who are landing in the television space. And at the time, I think Hispanics / Latinos were right in the 4.3 percentile range of speaking roles and representation on television. So when I landed that role, I didn't know these numbers, and the report came out and I was intrigued by it. So I read it and I was absolutely blown away because I didn't realize at the time that the margin was so small, and I didn't know that I was part of this like one in like several million opportunity of making this. So when I landed the role, I was like 100% blown away. I was beside myself. I didn't know how I should feel because I was proud. Obviously, you know, I have grandparents who strived to, you know, put my parents in better neighborhoods. And then I had my parents who strived to put us in a better neighborhood and to push us to do better than they even did. And I was the first of my siblings to go to college, and I was the youngest. And then, you know, I convinced 2 of my other siblings to enroll in college as well. And now one will be graduating next year. But it was really a moment of, I just didn't land this on my own. There was all of my ancestors and everyone else on my shoulders that this is for them. This is the dream that they all aspire to be without knowing it. This was the opportunity of, you know, we sacrifice so that our kids can have better. And I was this second, third generation of we made it, you know, and now my goal with my nieces and nephews is I can push them so that they can make it even further while I'm still pushing my own career. But I was beside myself when I learned about the numbers, and I was so grateful for the opportunity. And I'm forever grateful for Sue Side and Christopher Updike and Elaine Kavanaugh for even considering me and me being part of this spectacular television series, let alone, you know, we know what the percentage is right now with the LGBTQ community. So not only was I percentage of that, but I was a percentage of the Hispanic community. So it was a 2-in-1 shabam. You know, they got 2 for 1 or what they budgeted for. So it's just, it makes me smile still to think that an opportunity like that would be presented to me. But again, it was the right space and right time. And I was doing something that was selfless for my mom when the opportunity presented itself. And Shay Holland took a chance on me and just really kind of
shout out to Shay Holland
into that position. And then I was propelled to Barbara Barton Abel, and it just all kind of it all just happened so fast. But again, like it was just believe it or not, it was this group of leading ladies who really got me to where I was. And, you know, the visionary of Christopher Updike and Create the Escape being his baby and the project that he was really working so diligently on in order to get off the ground. And it happened, and it was the perfect storm. And I was there. I was the face of a perfect storm.
Yes. And I like how eloquently you spoke to all that. And I was going to ask you one thing. I know we are wrapping here, but I was going to ask you, by getting that experience, I'm assuming it happened the way that it happened for me. Like the year that I did Fuse Television, and I had you know, hosting live TV nationwide, IFB monitor, director downstairs, stage director, like the whole thing. It felt so good. And when it ended, you know, much like your project, when it ended, it's a great experience while it happened. But when it ended, I remember like I thought that I would feel like, okay, I sufficed this dream. Now, if I never get back to this space, like it's okay. But are you like me where by doing it once, you're like, I absolutely need to work my butt off to have this happen again, because it was so invigorating. It felt like I was like home for the first time. Like, and I think we've talked a little bit off camera too. I think you've mentioned stuff like that, right? Like by doing it once, it doesn't say the dream is over. It's like, I want it again and again and again.
Yeah. And again, you know, so many people have said that this industry is not for the faint-hearted. So of course, when a spectacular, brilliant project that you're working on ends, and then you kind of have nothing lined up after it for the time being, because, you know, things come eventually, but you hit this pit of, oh my gosh, why isn't everybody knocking at my door? And then you kind of regroup and recenter yourself and think not every opportunity is for me. And the opportunities that are for me will manifest and they'll come my way. But you just have to trust the process, and you just have to keep your head down. Not even keep your head down, but keep your head up and just keep doing the work that you're doing, because it will all eventually come to you. And again, if you're not finding opportunities in everything that you do in order to center yourself in the future that you want, you're never going to grab that future. Because let me tell you, unknowingly, I had trained myself to be a presenter and to gain a skill set to be in front of the camera. And so I was recording myself doing my mom's house and remodeling my mom's house. And with the television knowledge that I was trained with in college, it all kind of came together for what I needed to present myself to NBC Universal and Peacock TV in order for this to happen. So just keep doing your work and find all of your opportunities, even in your regular jobs that you have. If you want to be a television presenter, present all the items that you're selling at the donut shop like they are the awards. Let the people know that this strawberry-filled donut, it has a magnificent flavor and hues of X, Y, and Z. Let them know, because all these things matter. The
skill set is the skill set is the skill set, and you could transcend that to other opportunities. You know, even this morning, like I did, you know, New York radio for 94.7 The Block with the great Miss Jonesy in the morning. And it's like, you just add all these experiences. And I think to what you were saying a second ago about like how you get there and then you want to keep on believing, you know, so if you believe, you achieve. It's really great to continuously do the work. That's why even when I get down and out about my channel, like my YouTube channel or whatnot, or what's the direction, I'm like, it's still really great practice. And that I think is the key. So you take what you've learned in YouTube and you take it to the radio. You take what you learned in radio, you put it to YouTube. You take what you've done in live TV, you put it to your next, you know, business meeting. It's all the same. I do want to say one last thing that's so exciting to me, because I've worked in production as well. So Kelly Ripa did another, like a game show. It's escaping me what it was called, but I know somebody who's on the higher up level in that production who, and I'm not going to name names, but we were having drinks once. I was explaining how much she's an inspiration to me. I really like Kelly Ripa and Mark too. And he was like, oh my God, she's amazing. Like, she's like about it. Like, she's like really on point, great worker, knows what she's doing. And I was like, that is so good to hear, because, you know, you've always heard other things possibly, you know, and I also resent that, like, a woman who knows what she's doing needs to be labeled as mean or something like that. Get out of here, you know, show some respect. So anyway, Kelly Ripa, Mark Consuelos. I will not mince my words. Kelly and Mark, production, whoever is watching this, because we know that you're watching. Hi, production. I want you to send Randomly Ronnie to be the field correspondent. I'll do some red carpets, et cetera, et cetera. And if you need a little more hey and whoa, Russell Raymond could be the personal trainer or whatnot. We could find something. Anyway.
And look, I don't even have any Botox and my forehead don't wrinkle. Look at this. This is all natural beauty. I'm ready for the camera.
Now you're being 10 years younger than me is really starting to piss me off. But okay, fine.
Look, see, I don't move my forehead on purpose because I knew that one day I would get wrinkles. So I try my very hardest not to move my forehead, but look, I can. It's
big shout out.
I can.
Big shout out to us for showing up in this space, and big shout out to Kelly and Mark for being a motivation and like a role model for people that want to do the same type of career. In the comments, go ahead and tell me what your favorite thing about talk shows are, but specifically Kelly and Mark, and if you think they're here to stay. I personally do. But that's been the end of the show. Do you have anything to promote, Russell?
Head over to youtube.com/@RussellXRaymond. Find out all of what I'm talking about. We just wrapped the Real Housewives of New Jersey. It was so explosive. And now we are working on our new projects that will be coming into Real Housewives of New York. Real Housewives of Miami will air shortly after that, and we will be covering those as well. I will be covering pop culture news and what's going on in today's media with some rotating co-hosts. So let me know what you think. Give me your comments, good or bad. I can take it. Trust me. I've been around the block, been here for a while. I ain't going nowhere. I will see you there. If not, then you can be square.
Shout out to my co-host. And of course, if you want to support my stuff, it's patreon.com/randomlyRJ Jr. And if you go to the hashtag randomly with Ronnie Jr. on the YouTube platform alone, there's like over 800 videos. So I have been working. So hopefully people enjoy it. Russell, it is time for us to go, and good luck with your career. Not that you need it, because we are going to keep on succeeding. I know that much is for real. Until then, we bid you adieu. Is that how they say goodbye? Bid you adieu? Bid you adieu?
To you, adieu. To you, and you, and you.
I'm just going to say bye next time. Bye.
Hey, Ronnie Jr.